Today we're going to review Jean-Michel Jarre. I hope that's how you pronounce his name. Jarre. Jean-Michel Jarre's new album, which is called Oxygene 3. Jean-Michel Jarre is a longtime composer, performer, musician who's created some really fundamental and definitional albums when speaking of electronic, ambient, and new age music. His most famous release is probably Oxygene 1 that came out in 1976. The thing that I love a lot about that album is that it's so timeless. I mean, you can put it on today, as I imagine you could do in the 1970s, and you can still have a experience of a very harmonious, futuristic, strange, and also epic world of music. And that expression that I just used, world of music, is perfect when it comes to describing what I'm talking about here. Jarre had this incredible ability to create musical terrains. When I put on his classical album Oxygene, for example, my mind starts to create pictures that kind of represent what I'm hearing. It's almost as if the music from that album is supplementing or charging my imagination, and I've kind of had that experience with a few other albums, but it doesn't happen that often. To sum up, the album Oxygene has a rich variety of melodies, some of them being very epic, some haunting, some were even alien-esque. Bottom line is that it was a freaking masterpiece from start to finish. Then came the sequel, Oxygene 2, and it was just so uninteresting. I don't even want to get too far into that. And now, just a few days ago, on the 2nd of December, the new album, Oxygene 3, came out. And in hoping that it would be better than the previous album, I made myself very, very disappointed. I don't know what Jarre was thinking of when he made this album, because it just feels so forced, He's clearly going for the same style as he did in the previous albums, just with a little bit more of a modern turn to it. But the difference, and one of the things that I recognized very early on when I listened to the albums the first 2 times, was that the very first tracks are very stripped down. The harmonies and the sounds here are also very uninteresting. All the songs have their unique identity, but to my ears, most of them come off as unfinished. They don't challenge you in any way. They don't sound rich or novel. It's like the tracks, the album is there just to be there, It sounds so awkward and weird to listen to this, and even boring and, as I told you, uninteresting. Now, with that in mind, I have to say that there are a few tracks that I like a bit, and the reason why I want to highlight these is because they're not as boring as the rest of the album. They actually have a pretty chill vibe going on, and the first track that I want to mention is Oxygene Part 18. Again, there's not a lot of melody here. It's basically just an atmosphere that Jarre is trying to create, I guess. But it's enough melody and it's enough flow in it that it kind of ends up sounding like something Taiko could have made. The best way I can describe this track is to say that it is very soothing and calming. It is not one of those tracks where it seems like Jarre is trying to create an electronic masterpiece and failing miserably in doing that. Instead, I imagine Jarre going like, fuck it. I'm going to create a song that the kids can listen to while they're doing their homework. And to be honest, I kind of enjoyed, writing this review while listening to that song. It was pretty chill and calm. The second track that I want to highlight that I kind of liked is Part 19. I think this is track number 7. In contrast to all of the other songs, this had a very good sounding melody to it. I also kind of liked the progression of the song because it had a few breaks, it had a few shifts in between the layers and the patterns. And I think this added a little bit of strength and novelty to the whole song. So in all, Oxygene Part 18 and Oxygene Part 19 were actually kind of nice. Now let's quickly run through some of the other tracks here, although I don't like them. Instead of a harmonious coalition of sounds, atmospheres, and simple melodies, Jarre is creating something that is very tame. Take the first track, for example. It sounds like it's building up to something, but it isn't at the same time. There's really no climax there. So it's like it's building, it's going and going, but for what? It's the same with the second track. It sounds like a bunch of loops and sequences just going over and over and over. There's really nothing there that catches my interest. The third track sounds like I don't know how to describe it. It sounds like an okay score for an action game during the mid 2000s. Track number 4, guess what? It's okay. It's okay, but there's really nothing more to it. Yeah, it has more of a drive, it has more of a melodic approach to it, but then again, it's plain and simple and boring. It doesn't challenge me in any sort of way when I listen to it, and that is the reason why it doesn't grasp my attention at all, really. Shortly said, this is not a record that I would put on again for a very long time. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. Boring. But hey, before you go, make sure to check out Jean-Michel Jarre's other albums, such as Oxygene 1, which is amazing. It is a masterpiece. And also check out the other album called Equinox, another masterpiece. Go ahead and do it. Make sure to check those out. Bam.